welcome once again to the webinar on the topic Alternative Protein Sustainable Solutions for the Future of Food. Now, I'm very excited to have you guys here join us today for the rich discussion. We have our esteemed panelists in front of us who will bring diverse expertise in agriculture, sustainability, and food technology. So, without wasting further time, let me just quickly introduce to you our esteemed panelists. First up, we have Dr. Yulid. He's the CEO of Vesselis and Evergold, and he's an entrepreneur in Mexico from the agro-industrial sector, leading the companies as the CEO with the focus in sustainability and fair trade. He also holds a degree in criminology and is studying industrial engineering. And honored with the doctorate degree, Dr. Yulid advocates the indigenous rights as a former federal commissioner at the Federal Regulatory Council of Human Rights for Indigenous People. So welcome, Dr. Yulid. And then we have Dr. Lutz. He's the founder and CEO of Cullet & Partner, and he's an accomplished agronomist and a business consultant with a PhD in horticulture science. As a founder and CEO, he provides consultancy services to the SMEs and in the vegetable industry and agriculture. With 20 years of experience, he brings us today as one of our esteemed panelists, right? Now, next up, we have Ricardo, the Chief Commercial Officer of Elgesil, and he was also a strategic marketing director for AB Agri. Specialization in the growth driven of B2B market. He's an innovative leader in the corporate and commercial strategy with the focus on digital enablement in the agriculture. He also holds a degree in economic and an MBA. Complemented by the study in corporate strategies and digital transformation. With the 15 years of experience in the animal nutrition industry, Ricardo brings the insight from diverse sector, including automotive, retail, and as a CCO of Elgesil, he leads the initiative to produce high quality ingredients using sustainable methods. So welcome, Ricardo. Then we have Mr. Bala. He's a part of Elia Rizik Holding, and he's also dedicated in providing, the company is also dedicated in providing total livestock solutions and also sustainable farming. As a sustainability consultant, he focuses on initiatives such as rainwater harvesting, livestock management, growing feed and protein for the livestock. His visions include establishing a learning center and promoting ecotourism to enhance community engagement. So I welcome Mr. Bala to this webinar. Next up, we have Susan and Sven. So they are from, Susan is the co-founder and chief operating officer at Sustainable Planet. And as the name suggests, they work for sustainable, and as a seasoned business leader with over 30 years of experience in global emerging market, primarily in Africa, and a co-founder of Holistic Agriculture Investment Group and Sustainable Planet. She focuses on sustainable agriculture, agri-tech solution for food security. Under her leadership, Sustainable Planet won multiple prestigious awards, including UN World Food Forum Innovative Prize. And Susan is also a part of board member in the African Agriculture Council and a chair in Gender Lens Fund for female-led SMS. Right? So I welcome Susan and Sven to this webinar too. How are you guys feeling?
Ready to go.
Ready to go. Okay, so as you've said, ready to go. We'll dive into the agenda straight away. Let me just quickly put up the first question. So Ricardo, are you ready? Will you start with us?
Much as I can be, yes.
Okay, so the question to you directed by the team and the people wants to know, what are the key drivers behind the growing interest of alternative proteins among the consumers and the businesses running out there?
Yeah, so I don't think that anything I'm going to say is new to anyone here in the panel or anyone listening to the webinar, but it can be a starting point for getting the discussion further. I also, any of my colleagues here, if you want to jump in and highlight any points, introduce new ones, I appreciate that. So please do it. I would split in three main for each of the two drivers that you mentioned. So on the one side, the consumers, on the other side, the businesses. On the consumer side, the first very important trend, obviously, is the expected increase in population. Whether we go to the high end of the expected increase in population or we stay with more conservative growing population numbers, you're going to have between 15 and 30% increase in population over the next 25 years, which is a lot more people to feed. And that is pressure on the food systems, and that enables opportunities about what we're talking about today, alternative proteins, among other things, of course. The second one is not only the increase in people will have more demand for food, quality food, protein and energy, it's also the expected increase in per capita protein and per capita energy intake. So that will put an additional demand on food systems that we need to solve in the right way. And the third point that I would mention from the consumer perspective is the change in behavior. So obviously Gen Z and millennials, but I guess across all different age groups, we start to see how people really care more about how good the food that they are eating is, or how healthy the food is, thinking about not eating unsaturated fats, maybe from animal sources. They are thinking about how nutritious it is what they eat. They are curious about novel foods and novel ingredients. They look for it in their diets when they can, and when they can pay for it as well. That is a growing trend. Also things like vegetarians, flexitarians, they are putting pressure on all the type of food that, especially in Europe and North America, it's not so common to consume. That is putting pressure in the way we supply food to the people in those parts of the world. Animal welfare, people not wanting to eat food from animals, that's a growing trend in certain consumer segments. And then there's something more related maybe with the story, maybe with the marketing, maybe with the way some brands are going to the market with their position, which is aspirational. A lot of people wants to do what is right, and they feel they want to do their part trying to help to eat good food, but also to do it in a sustainable way, which is of course the other big trend that enables the great future of alternative proteins. If I go to the business, and I will build a little bit more on the sustainability side from there, I would say that the first one is, well, they are obviously responding to the changes in buying behavior from their consumers or customers. They are trying to adapt their portfolios to having ingredients and food that is healthy, that is nutritious, that is more sustainable, and that is more plant-based, that they are addressing these concerns about non-animal-based diets, etc., etc. So they are trying to give that response by changing the portfolio. The second one is they need to do it within the boundaries of the earth, or worse, meaning that maybe you could have less productive land in the future because of climate warming. So they need to do all these things and supply the food to a growing population using less energy, using less water, emitting less CO2, which are three critical components of things that alternative proteins can help with, sorry. But one that is very especially always in my head is the pressure over the land. If we have roughly 13 billion hectares of land, and half of that is roughly forest and pasture land, and out of that, roughly, again, 30% is arable land. If we want to produce food the same way we do today, we'll need to take land, whether from forest or whether make more pasture land available, damaging other ecosystems and putting a lot of pressure on a lot of things that we don't want to. So we need to do this by using significant less land than we do now, enable more food in a way that is more scalable and more sustainable. And in the third point is obviously legislation. There's a lot of countries passing legislation where players in businesses have to respond to. And that goes with making their emissions better, reducing their footprint, but also it goes with different ways of engaging with the suppliers, caring about scope 2, scope 3 suppliers, having local sources of protein, and having that way of controlling how the full supply of their product go to market in a more nutritious and more sustainable way.
Yeah.
So those would be my key points. Certainly there will be more, and there will be a lot of detail in any of them. I'm sure there's certainly a lot of experts in the call that maybe can build on top.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ricardo. I would just say they call you strategic marketing director for a reason. So yeah, thank you so much for this. Next up, we have the question for Dr. Lutz. Are you ready? Can I direct you the next question?
Yes, I'm ready. The microphone is switched on.
What?
You would like to ask the question, Sarita, or
Yeah,
shall
yeah,
I?
sure. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I just would like to change to share the screen with you, but because I prepared some slides, so it
Yeah,
might be easier for you to follow.
yeah, sure.
Do not mind to raise any questions later on. The main
Yeah.
message is that, well, when we talk about innovation, could be technical, could be cultural, could be economic. So
Mhm.
my personal point of view is that it's the change of mind, change of focus, the interpretation, and the judgment. As
Yeah.
I'm from Europe, my first is that we are just going from creepy to tasty regarding insects. So this is the main message I want to distribute. And then now I will show you how I got there. I tried to share the screen. And Zarita, I would just like to tell me um, when it is done, because in here with the system, I just see the screen, but then
Mhm.
I lose you. Do you see the screen?
Not yet. I would like it's not visible from our end. Anybody else can see it? No,
No.
not yet.
Okay, so we just change that. I go back in there and just, okay, it's eingeben. Now it should
Yeah,
be
that's fine.
Yeah,
with you. Okay,
that's good.
thank you very much. So I'm on the second nomination. I highlighted innovation, alternative protein currently, and biggest
Mm-hmm.
impact on the food industry. So this is my topic over here.
Yeah.
First thing, as I'm science addicted, is just looking Google, looking literature. And the first thing I found, well, it's fermentation. It's a technology. To my extent, it's a redesign because fermentation, well, everybody who knows yogurt or knows beer, it has been done for a lot of time. Then we have cultivated and cell-based meat, new to me, but I'm not a medicine. So I would just guess if we are talking about skin that could be replaced, we are just near to it. Unconventional crops, also in a technical or just scientific article, for me, a rediscovery, but because we have about, I have a guess, 200 edible foods from which we are just here using about 10. So it's just widening the focus of what is edible for us. Then comes new in the idea of circular food system. Not new because we are always thinking of circular economy, doesn't work like this, but we are just thinking of using alternative proteins for livestock, which is just the short version. And then we are thinking of feeding us ourselves by microalgae and fungi, thus by this alternative protein. Second literature I got, well, there are extraction methods which could be innovative. Physical, chemical, well, we have extractions in physical and chemical, so this is nothing new to me. We just use them as additives. We just put algae into noodles. So it's like putting or puring milk into coffee. We put them into beverages, so it gives it a new taste, but it's not real, I would say, innovative. It's just progressing in the development on a certain product. We just put them in powder, pills, or tablets. We just have them known. What is new? New knowledge. So there's knowledge created on the nutritional content of the algae. And what was new, what to my knowledge, that insects might serve as source of antibiotics. The replacement of soybean meal is published by some universities, but well, for me, it's just widening the fodder for the livestock. So it would be a little bit creative, but not really an innovation. Then I thought, well, are there other things we just have to consider when talking about innovation? So I Googled again and I found that there is a kind of bulb and there is innovation in companies, innovation in knowledge, in cultures. And that gave me some more ideas, because I do not want to repeat. I do not want to copy and paste. And then I looked at literature again. I just looked at the shelves and I just redesigned. I just a fan of making some, I just call it pictures. It's just a map. So I just added all of the words I have connected with innovation, with proteins, with ATP. I just did an error of mine. It's alternative protein. And last, on the left-handed side, you see the industry. I marked then the points which were important for me, and you see some I left out. So it just depends on the level you're going on, how detailed you look at things. If you're very detailed, every new step would be an innovation, because you're just focused on this. So I made up this map, and I just looked later on. I said, look in the shelves, innovation, biggest impact. Can you see it? Because I think somebody's looking at the screen. Is it big enough for you to see, or just I'm not in the right modus to show you? Is this better?
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah, that's perfectly fine now.
Sorry. This is my first time with it. Otherwise, we can just go back. So you just see the duck fermentation, cultivate, as I said before. This is the headlines, then the extraction methods, then looking at literature, open innovation, product innovation. So it's every time innovation. So I thought, if we are talking about, it's just going too fast, sorry for that. How to look at it in an alternatively way. And then I just looked at the shelves, just look in my kitchen. So on the left-hand side, we have cheese. Cheese is fermented. It's an old technique. We have beer, we have wine, we have sour teig to get fermented bread. We have chocolate, where ingredients are newly added, like nuts. We have mashed potatoes for stocking. We had some on the second line, potato mashed and frozen. We already had in 2014 the soldier fly insect for eating. What do you call it? It's just organic material, waste material. That startup didn't function here in Switzerland. We have meat. It could be an example that you just buy in the direct market. And of course, we have insects already in our nutrition, for example, as honey. Honey is just the bees looking in they are eating the nectar. They are just fermenting it within their body. Then they're just getting it out and they're re-fermenting it. So I have already all these things which are now coming up as innovation already in our diet. So I just said, well, if this is what we have, then my conclusion is there are different levels and perspectives if you're looking at innovation, maybe from an economic point of view, marketing point of view, and it depends on cultures, communication, and sectors. Like we would just say eating worms, not our stuff. In other countries, wasps are eaten, for example. So it's just a question of culture. Depends on the degree of abstraction. So if just looking at global level, detailed levels. And thus, just for me, the changes of our minds is the most important thing. The focus, the perspective, we have to change. Something is getting new, can be eaten, is in there. The interpretation, it comes from science, it comes from psychology to give us a guiding line, and then the judgment. That's why I said creepy to tasty. Things we do not like to eat will be there to be transformed and later eaten. It's from no way, I don't eat it, to, oh, it's an opportunity. Oh, you cannot do it. Yes, we can. We from do not to yes, of course. And this is combined with some trends we have. It's globalization, because otherwise we were stuck still as Germans with sauerkraut and just eat our Wurst. It's open access to knowledge because the information I got from Science Hub and I got them from ResearchGate. The sharing of information, it's not like me first. It's not like I'm the only one. And this is all done between cultures and continents, as we see in the seminar over here by new techniques, YouTube and Zoom. So this is what I wanted to lay out to you. This is my personal point of view, so we just can discuss later on about your point of view. Thanks for, this is something I have to look for later on. Thanks for being eligible for the webinar. Not that normal, I guess. Thank you for your attention. And thank you for comments, questions, and feedback.
On that, anybody has to ask something or add on to what Lutz has said. That was amazing PPT, Dr. Lutz. Feel free to share this with us. We want to add this in the sliders. So I would expect this you to share it with me for the better presentation. Anybody wants to add something to what Lutz has said or any questions from your side?
I would add, I think it was very well put, and starting with the culture and the product innovation. You're touching on a lot of things. I would say the sustainability and the alternative nutrition solutions that we might be looking for. I think that's a component also of kind of call it technology innovation. So these solutions typically are not at the scale that it is yet required to be a significant part of the solution for the future of the global food systems. And all of them, or most of them, are attractive. They are providing a solution. Most of them, if not all, still at a smaller scale. So turning this into a scale that can be optimized at global level, that can be used in a sustained, long-term, stable basis, it's probably going to require a lot of bright people working on how fermentation improves, how photobioreactors improve, et cetera, which is not only very, very, very interesting, it's also something that I am very attractive to, seeing how engineers think about it and bring new solutions and improve it 1%, and month after another 1%, and things get to the final goal is really, really remarkable.
Yeah, I do agree on that. Moving on to a third question, because I've seen Dr. Hewlett patiently waiting for his turn, just to speak on. So let me just direct the third question to Dr. Hewlett. So can you just let us know how can collaboration with the stakeholders in the food industry enhance the development and acceptance of these alternative proteins that we are talking about?
Well, I think that the collaboration in the alternative protein industry is like to drive for a sustainable development. For example, collaboration among food industry and stakeholders is crucial for advancing alternative protein development and acceptance. For example, by working together, I think that we can accelerate innovation, enhance quality and safety, and increase the demand. Some benefits of this collaboration are, for example, accelerate product development through shared knowledge and technology, enhance quality and safety via joint nutritional and safety assessment, increase acceptance and demand through education and awareness, and reduce environment impact through sustainable practices. For examples, well, I think I have some examples of collaboration. That effective collaboration takes various forms. For example, research consortia uniting industry, academia, and government. The mentorship programs guiding startups in alternative protein development, conference and events like this one we're having right now, to sharing the knowledge, sectorial working groups establishing standards and regulations. That's all about the strategy of the government and public-private partnership promoting innovation. I think we have some key elements of successful collaboration to achieve all that stuff that I just mentioned, that open and transparent communication with the government and all the people that is involved, share the objective, respect the diverse perspective, and some flexibility and adaptability of all these programs, and commitment and sustainability and social responsibility. And all that stuff we have to align with the current trends. For example, the growing and demand of sustainable options, increased awareness of animal welfare, I don't know, seeking innovative climate change solutions. There will be a lot of things that we need to think about it to start all that stuff, no?
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree on that. Thank you so much, Dr. Hewlett, for that. Anybody wants to add something, or anybody wants to ask something to Dr. Hewlett, and then we'll move on to the fourth question.
I would like to ask a question, Dr. Okudi, which would be your favorite field of cooperation?
My favorite field? I don't know. For example, I will start with let's say in the farms, for example, with all the to have to have transparent communication with all the people who work there and talk about all the benefits we can have if we still driving through this path, no?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for presentation.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Hewlett, for that. It's a pleasure to have you. Next up, we have Mr. Bala for the fourth question. Are you ready? Mr. Bala has been sitting there,
Yes.
and I'm looking at him. So
No
could
problem. Thank
you
you.
put on some highlights on what are some common misconception that the alternative proteins that we are using, or that we are planning to use, that needs to be addressed right now?
Thank you very much. I mean, this question is question if you're addressing to the alternative food, which protein which is derived because of assumption of that the main source of food, our normal food, our population is divided between meat, and the alternative food is that when you don't get the meat, or you just say you don't have this food, so we are going for the alternative food. So I come on another platform where we are saying, why not the alternative food is for the animals? Why can't we feed the animals with alternative food and have a sustainable food system for the human as a normal food? Let's have meat, let's have chicken, let's have fish. These are not going to die. We are not going to have global system where this meat industry is going to die. There's going to be 70% of them have to have normal, these are normal food.
Yeah.
If we can use alternative food to take care of the normal food, like what we are doing, some of the things I have done is that the animal waste, we call it the dung and it's the waste, but it has been now changed to protein food by introducing black soldier flies. When we have waste convert to black soldier flies, we get the larvae, and the larvae we are using it to feed the chicken and the fish. Now, there's a balance. We already have managed the waste, and now we have food on our table, which is normal for human being.
Yeah.
So the misconception of me is my thoughts, because is that we always say that we need alternative food because there's going to be a global shortage of food. But we are not addressing why are we having global shortage of food. It's because we don't have enough to feed the animals.
Yeah.
So the next question is, is there a protein problem, or is that an alternative food that which needs to be derived? I totally agree with people saying that soya, like Dr. Lut have introduced like the few categories, fermentation, and then the bee is giving you honey. And look, we need the bees. All right. So what we need to introduce to the bees is to populate the bees by giving more flowers for them. We need more flowers so that the bee population will increase. Now, the protein from the larvae or even a grasshopper, the insects, which we are now talking about, we need to grow insects. Why don't we give the insects to the animals, which they need to eat first? And then we have like grasshopper and birds need to grow, chicken needs to grow. So this is the different thought which I like to address, which is misleading. Everyone are always talking about how can we always grow alternative food for human.
Mhm.
I'm just asking the question, why not we have alternative food for the animals, which
True.
is coming from the waste from human. We are wasting a lot of food. The
Yeah.
waste management in countries, the food we throw away is animal feed.
Yeah.
When we can divert it back to the animals will give us food again. So this is
Yeah.
my simple thought. And I think this is not discussed in many forums. We are always talking about we need alternative food for human. So I like to just ask the question, why not we start thinking about alternative food for the animals? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
And
that's the
yeah.
thought. Thank you.
Yeah. That I was, yeah, Ricardo, go for it.
No, I was going to say it's a very interesting question, and I've been working in the animal nutrition industry for 15 years until I 2 weeks ago moved to this space of the alternative protein.
Yeah.
And I think from both perspectives, from the alternative protein producers and from the animal nutrition producers, they are both looking for the alternatives. And
Correct.
while their interest is there and everyone is looking at fundamentally ways of reducing the footprint and having local sources of alternatives to other ingredients and making still nutritious feed for animals. And I agree, it has to be a way to go because we're not going to feed the world if we decide not to use animals for feeding people. The pressure on cost is even higher than is on human food. It's a market that is more primary, that has lower margins, that is predicated on a scale and very low margins. So technology, in order to provide an ample solution for feed producers, it will have to catch up a little bit on a scale and cost per unit. But then I have absolutely no doubt, having been there for years and having colleagues focus on sourcing and alternative sourcing, that they will adopt and animals will be fed in a different way. I think technology still has a little bit of way to catch up on scalability, perfection technologies, reduce the cost per output unit. And certainly, I'm with you. It will have to be a way to complement the feeding of animals and make it better for everyone.
Yeah, I do agree on that. And you know the reason I wait for these webinars every Friday is the mindset, the insights that we have. We were talking about alternative foods for human, and I genuinely, when we were deciding this topic because it was an interesting topic, I genuinely was thinking about what kind of alternative foods do we need for humans. I never had a thought we do need alternative food for animals too. So thank you so much, Mr. Pala, for bringing that up. And thank you, Ricardo, for adding on the point that you've done. Last up, now, since we've covered almost every topic in here, every question, and I'll pass it on the last question to Susan, who's waiting for the turn. And I would also like Sven to add on a few points in that. So, Susan, how can we effectively integrate the alternative proteins into our food system to ensure a sustainable and resilient future of global food security? Since you are from sustainable background, and who better than you can answer this?
Well, I am actually bursting with excitement because I can tie together so many comments that have been made on this call. And the short answer is innovation. Innovation is going to make huge inroads and impacts into how we feed both animals and humans. And
Yeah.
the alternative, or the actual one of the responses to that, is that we at Sustainable Planet have an innovation that does just that. So there's no question that the trend is to develop alternative proteins very actively. Sustainability is the main driver. We're all trying to create more food with less drive on resources. We want to spend far less focus on, or far less quantities of water, of chemicals. Biodiversity is critical. We all know all of this. So
Yeah.
what is an animal? And it's been a very fascinating journey for me because I have focused in the last 14 years on growing food across Southern Africa. And we now grow plant protein on non-arable land with Sustainable Planet. So we grow water lentils, and we grow it on desert flats in Abu Dhabi, and we grow it on salt flats in Mozambique. And we use very little water, 15 times less water than soya. and it's a carbon sink. So this plant, this superhuman, the superhero in terms of protein, is lifts way above its weight. It's not just 45% protein, but it's all a series of amino acids and vitamins far, far superior to even chlorella and spirulina. The reason that I say this is because this is one of many innovations. So what is frustrating for innovators or for people like myself that are entrepreneurial, that actually have answers that can provide huge quantities of alfalfa replacement, lucerne replacement, can go soy replacement, actually. I mean, there's no deforestation. We use land that no one else wants. It's a low-cost production model, actually, because we get free land. We're producing a like-for-like protein with soya, but it's more nutritious, and there's no deforestation, so it's more sustainable. Now, there are others like this. I mean, pea protein, and I mean, there's obviously soya that actually compares very poorly to water lentils. There is rice and pea protein, which uses far more water, especially rice protein uses huge amounts of water to be produced. Water lentils use almost no water. But there are innovations. And the frustration for me is to go to countless UN conferences and various other events globally, African Startup of the Year Awards, I mean, some big events, and see a series of innovations that I would invest in absolutely, that are green initiatives that have a huge impact in this space. And we are not seeing the funding. So when you ask my question, which is how do we integrate responsible, sustainable protein alternatives? The first step is funding the innovators that are actually providing the solutions. And I, as an innovator, do not see that funding. So my frustration level is extremely high. And if you were, I mean, I've got a presentation which I won't share with you now because it's a 3-minute job, but it gives, I think these presentations are impactful because I think a picture shows 1,000 words basically. And the scale of these ponds is vast. And just to give you an example, we can produce literally multiples more protein than soya. If soya produces 4 tons per hectare per annum, because it's a 6-month cycle, we produce between 40 and 90 tons per hectare per annum of plant protein, which is vastly superior and scalable. So I know we had discussed early on the call, animal food, scalability, feeding animals a different way. The bottom line is that the byproduct of what we produce goes to animals. We have the technology to produce human food from this plant. So we can produce isolate that goes into protein powders, shakes, pastas. We produced a protein pasta with Buehler in Switzerland, protein breads, etc., cereals. So like for like with soya. So that's a whole market that is being created that is very powerful in terms of bars and shakes with the health market and the health and wellness market. But the byproduct goes into animal food. And so we're talking to the Saudis about replacing, their alfalfa that they basically try to secure and do secure from Argentina and the Midwest in America that has a huge carbon footprint. Why not grow it on sand instead? And it has a nutritional value that is superior to what they're bringing in. So there are innovations that actually can address these concerns. And it really is a matter of focusing on supporting those innovations, whether it is insect protein, whether it is plant protein, but there is no question in my mind that given the sustainability drive that we are seeing globally and the demand that we see in our business alone for what we produce, we could never, ever touch the demand that we are seeing globally for what we produce. It's as simple as that. So we know the demand is there, and you always start with the consumer, and we know that as well. So, I mean, genuinely, I think governments have to get their skates on and be far more proactive in providing grant money. I'm not saying subsidies, but grant money. And we've got to see some, philanthropists and others that are prepared to actually go into something that says agriculture on it and not run. People do not like investing in it. This is the truth of it, because I'm an operator, so I grow wheat and bananas and beans and everything else. And I'm sitting on a farm now that's 6,000 acres in Zambia. And the bottom line is that nobody likes to invest in the production side. And we always wait for the processing side or the distribution side. And the reality is, folks, that we have got to invest more at the coal face. And I run these farms and I co-own these farms because I want to feel what it's actually like to produce food at a basic level. And it is one of the most difficult. It makes what I did in investment banking look like the hardest job in the world. This is a really hard slog. And I think that the universe, the consumer and governments particularly have to wake up and start to fund this much more actively.
Yeah, absolutely, Suzanne. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sven, you want to add on something to what Suzanne has said?
I think she said more or less everything which is really important, but maybe just to add, what we experience is really no one is paying extra for sustainability, and that is a pity, and we see that on every level, and that has to change, and we really try to bring into the product the angle of sustainability and have an equal price, but no one is paying the extra cent. And that needs to be addressed globally, because without the extra cent, it is really hard to be sustainable. That is the case, and that needs to be a global awareness.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Vala, you want to add on something to this?
Dr. Susan, I am very happy to hear your problem, which the grant and fundings are not available readily for the work you're doing. But I'm really happy to want to collaborate with you because the Saudis need the animals, their livestock, and I need your technology to feed my animals. So we definitely would like to collaborate with you, not to worry about the funding. I mean, I am totally aware of the government giving funds. They look at the bottom line. The governments need to know at the end of the day what is the ROI and what they achieve, both in labeling and what they get for the people to announce. The government change. Now, all government will change 4 years, and I'm not against the government, but then I think let's put that problem aside. But we would like to know, how do you grow the technology you have, which can be collaborated with us to take care of the animals. And I love to work with you. So, I mean,
so that would be great. And I think that the bottom line is this: the actual production side is really quite simple. We have our flagship. We have a flagship in Mozambique. It's very substantial in the sense that it's multiple ponds, but we want to roll it out into thousands of hectares. We've been actually allocated up to 10,000 hectares of salt flats in southern Mozambique near one of our farms. So we can actually produce sugarcane, which is already on the farm, and we can produce maize on the farm and water lentils near that farm. And we can make animal feeds very easily with the byproduct. We can also put a processing plant on this site, and we can produce isolate to go into all sorts of different human foods. So that is absolutely possible in Mozambique, and it's a very low cost production center. The benefit of doing that is that you can engage subsistence farmers, which is our preference, because the company addresses all 17 SDGs. And that is one of the reasons, aside from the scalability of it, that is one of the reasons why we've won a series of substantial awards, because it is very SDG driven and highly scalable. And the ROI is close to 50% because the model is so low and because we're not buying land. We don't care to own that land. All we want is access to land, and we're done. So there are a number of components here that are very attractive to governments or very attractive to landowners that want us to come in to assist them to create jobs and to create a business as part of this whole framework. And it's highly sustainable. It is absolutely sustainable. It's back to the definition of it.
I do hear you. The one thing I'm very careful about sustainable farming is that the footprint of logistic. So when we talk about footprint, I rather move my animals near to the food and grow food beside the animals than moving the food to the animal. Okay, like Mozambique, from your location to Malaysia, the food cost will be on the logistics. So we should move our farm close by to work with you.
Well, also, no, not even that. And this is not just about my business, but we're going to be in Malaysia actually in November, because there are groups there that want to work with us in Malaysia. And this is a franchise model. We can set up a site in the UAE, which is what we're doing, in Singapore/Malaysia, which is what we're doing. and in Southern Cone Africa, which is what we're doing. But our goal is to work with the underprivileged that can actually get a leg up by doing this and make a huge amount of protein. And you can satisfy all of those requirements, and you can satisfy all of those components. It's possible. And what's actually, what I didn't mention about this plant, which I love, is that it is a carbon sink. So I mean, everyone in the Middle East, I just flew in from Dubai this morning. Everyone in the Middle East really understands mangroves, okay? And mangroves are kind of this supercharged plant. Of course, it is all over the UAE for obvious reasons. And this plant outperforms mangroves. It actually produces double the oxygen of mangroves, which is a massive difference. It is, and it absorbs nitrates from water. We can grow using gray water. We can grow using saline water. It doesn't have to be pure water because it cleanses the water itself, the plant. So I guess, and this is, I'm sorry to sound like a hard sell on the plant, but what I'm trying to get to is this is an innovation that has still, even though we're in advanced talks with various groups, it's still hard to actually get over the hump to get full production and extend it. And that is a very good example to me of what the problem is here.
Yeah.
Innovation is not, if I were to start off by saying, we have an agri-tech company that grows plant protein, then you'd look at it differently. If I say, we grow plant protein and we have the technology to transform it into foods, there's a different take. If you say agri-tech up front, then people are completely interested. But then when you say, by the way, to get to the tech, we have to grow the food. They go, oh God, you got to grow the food. Oh my God, you have to grow the food. Well, of course you've got to grow the food. And the good news is it's really simple to grow this food. It's very simple and it's very gender friendly because it is very, there's no heavy lifting. It's like pool cleaning. It's very simple. So we put small houses up for families to live in, and they get a hectare of land and they get 3 large ponds, and they can have that and diversify beyond their maize or their chickens or whatever else they want to do, but they get housing and they can easily have in fact, they treble their earnings in Mozambique. That's how substantial that their income becomes compared to what they would have.
Yeah, I think that sums up our job wherein Mr. Bala is ready to collaborate with Susan. So thank you so much, Susan, for that wonderful answer to the question. I am really loving the part. Now, Mr. Lutz is also trying to say something. You have a question, or do you want to add something to what Miss Susan has said?
I would like not only to add, but invite every one of you just to take contact, because Switzerland is an importing country of foodstuff. So there is a lot of business to do. So we need a business model. We should exchange about the conditions in your country, production costs. If the product is to be exported, we can just talk about, well, what about prices over here? So then we just can figure out, is it worth? And then we can just build up a business case. Secondly, if we're looking at long term, when we're looking at 2030, well, Switzerland, they still have to compensate for CO2. So everything which could be, let's say, accountable could be also put into place. And this is where sustainability is paid off. And if we plan it today, we can enter it into the function and the subsidies of the government when it is put in place. That means also transfer of knowledge could be a thing. Because we have universities over here, we have food production, processing. So why don't we just keep you together with them on a concrete case? Because otherwise it's just talking, as I've seen in the VEF, they're just talking about what somebody should do. And I say, we are doing it right now by exchanging, by offering corporations, and then we move on step by step. And as I have been, I have grown this company. It's about two years old, but I'm offering that to you. We just work on business cases, and then we look that there's added value for all of us, and that's my offering to that. So that also what you have said, sustainability can be paid if you just put it into the business model. Thank you.
Thank you, Lutz, on adding to that too with Suzanne. Anybody else want to conclude anything or wants to say something regarding this webinar, regarding this topic, or anything in general? Anybody wants to add something to this?
Can I say one last thing?
Yes,
I think we live in a world of paradox. You know, we've got this food. I'm in this job because I'm interested in climate change and food security. So we have issues of over 1 billion people per day cannot have one meal. And yet we've got this obesity issue globally. And we've got this drive towards sustainability and the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, particularly in agriculture, which is responsible for 27% of greenhouse gas emissions globally. That's behind manufacturing at 29% and electricity at 28%. Okay, so it's the third biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. And yet only 1.7% of climate finance today goes into agriculture. These paradoxes are quite hard and frustrating if you want to get ahead and move. I like to move, and it's very frustrating to me to not have more action faster. And I think these are really good calls, as COP is, as any collection of individuals is, because there's a raising of consciousness and we can all collaborate better. But it's still very uncoordinated. This is a very uncoordinated sector. And agriculture, which is so critical to us all, is a bit of it's like a lucky dip. You're lucky if you meet somebody that happens to share your view and you can collaborate in some way. It's so fundamental and it's so important to security and to commodities wars and to global peace, actually, that we can all be fed effectively, nutritionally, that there has got to be more that is done in support.
If I may, building on that point, Susan, and I fully agree. I think the big challenge I think agriculture is not a non-collaborative environment, but it's pre-existing. So it's very efficient, it's very collaborative, it works very well in the setting that we have had until now. When we come with new propositions, whether it's on the product side, on the supply chain, new ways of doing things, it's all to be built. Mm-hmm. And that's where I fully agree. We need to find ways of thinking as an ecosystem and seeing how together we can mobilize things forward, because we are changing a very long-term, highly productive way of doing agriculture with new ways that sometimes are very good on the product side, very good on the sustainability side. And when you look at from producing to applied and deliver, sometimes things are not so clear. So thinking all together, understanding how different companies have done development in certain areas and helping each other, not only will be able to do it better, but will create systems that agriculture can adopt. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers that we have. There has to be new systems to do things the new way, and many of them are still not there.
But disruption is not always welcome. And I think
agree.
Greenwashing is paramount. There's a lot of ghosting and there's a lot of, honestly, and I think that I'm in a space that wants to replace soya. There's no way we're going to replace soya, but we want to stop deforestation. That is not hugely welcome to soya producers. And animal feed, and someone on this call mentioned this, which was absolutely dead accurate. Animal feed is largely soya. Soya goes huge amounts of soya in animal feed. Yeah. That would be easy to replace with what we're doing, actually. And yet, pet food companies and various, we know this because we talk to them, they're not highly embracing this. They don't really, really want to see it particularly because it could undercut them and it could disrupt them. So there's, yes, disruptive, I think disruptive technology is critical, but it's not always welcome. And that is where
I agree. What is that system in there for them that they will embrace? And it goes, sometimes I've came across this many times on my previous world. It is things, products, alternatives that are very nutritious and sustainable. They are not on the science side, nutritionally, specs are not developed. So when you get to the detail of enhancing 1% productivity of an animal in this specific stage, nutritionists don't know how to handle it. So there's a long time and an effort in educating everyone within that chain of value to apply new things. And many times, not everyone is incentive to do the change. So it requires a lot of system thinking and a lot of effort. I sympathize with your comments. So.
I agree on that. I might mention that, well, there are like big companies, they are there, they're just doing their job, they're just getting the money in. They don't want their system to be changed. It's like routine in administration. But now we here have the chance by creating concrete cases. Let's take it, it's a pilot project. I don't care. We just put it together and we just have at least 2 sites in each country, maybe even more. And then we can figure out whom to find that is valorizing the added value. Let's say it's future food, alternative protein. It's just helping people to survive, giving them jobs. But that's for us to figure out, to propose it as farmers here. The innovation doesn't come from the retailer. It comes from the farmers.
Yeah.
And then it's like in politics. Somebody picks it up and stands up there and it's just, this is mine. Then the marketing stuff begins. So this is for me a unique chance to get in, first talk, let you know what you're doing, what I'm doing. Then you have transparency, then you build up trust, and then just have a stepwise approach, just doing things little by little, where you just say, well, it's an investment, it's not too big, so we cannot fail, or if we fail, we learn.
Yep.
So this is something which is new, because on the other conferences, it's already, oh, the government should do, or we should do. So let's do it. Yes, we will not be loved for that, of course, because we are just predators or small predators going, we have to have a critical mass and then just have a business case and a storyline. And as I said, Switzerland is importing about 50% of agricultural imports. We have the necessity to exchange with other countries. We are a small country. We are not the big players in Europe, neither in the world. So with the aim for future food production, either for animal, because there will always people eating meat. We cannot just say, no, it's over now. But that will change maybe over prices, tariffs, stuff like that. And then we will enter into the question, well, how do certificates of CO2 really play out? And I do not want it to get it to the banks or to the casinos. I just want that agriculture is taking part in that, getting the money to invest, because agriculture, 10,000 years, maybe more, hunter-gatherers. So it's one of the oldest business, and it also only worked with collaboration and exchange. Concerning to the seminar, Sarita, thank you very much. We are performing very, very good. So thank you for being, let's see, being eligible. Sorry that I did not come in on time. That was my fault.
No problem.
Yes, of course.
You that is so Swiss of you. Don't worry about it.
You share the presentation with everyone.
My point of conducting this webinar has been successful. I assume that from from the inputs that I've seen here in the meeting. So I assume that it's successful, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you so much for giving me your time, giving AgriNext your time, for your valuable participation. We are very, very honored to have you guys here. We appreciate the participation, the expertise, the insights that you've given. And I hope this discussion has sparked some new ideas or conversation around alternative proteins for humans, for animals, of course, and the role of sustainable food system here everywhere around the globe. because that's the goal. That's the ultimate goal. I think sustainability is the goal. And I wish you guys a very, very good day from here on. And thank you so much for joining in once again.